Hello, friends, and welcome to the Little Woman podcast. Today's comment shout-out goes to Fiction Adventure and Prince Sarissa and their convo that I will read to you. Quote, this is from Fiction Adventure from Tumblr. I am fascinated by how Alcott makes a distinction between talent and genius. At first, it seems like she's saying something like, if you can't make something on the level of Mozart or Michelangelo, why even bother? Because that's the arc that leads to both Laurie and Amy giving up their dreams of artistic careers. They realize that just loving something and having a bit of talent for it doesn't mean you make anything worthwhile. So they should devote their lives to other things and leave art to the true geniuses. But then it turns out that Alcott's saying something more like, you have to get enough life experience before you can create anything that expresses something worthwhile. Jo gives up her writing when she decides to stop writing derivative adventure stories, but after the experience of caring for and losing Beth, she has real emotion to tap into, and she's able to write things that resonate with audiences and capture her own unique voice. Amy takes up sculpture again after she starts caring for her sickly daughter, and the love and sorrow make it better than anything else she's ever made. It is interesting that Alcott is not advocating for art's sake. She is not advocating for art as self-expression. She is not saying that youth is a requirement for genius, or that only the young are fresh enough to truly innovate. She is actually saying that youth is an obstacle to artists. Genius isn't something you are born with. It is something you can mature into. Genius isn't an innate quality. It is inspiration. And the longer you live, the more experiences you have to draw inspiration from. Talent is what allows you to make the thing, but genius is what gives you something to say. It is a fascinating distinction that seems to flip a lot of the usual ideas about artistry on their heads. This is from Prince Sarissa. I think this is an important way to look at what Alcott says about creating art. Once I saw a feminist critic complaining that the message seems to be, quote, a woman can only be a good writer if she's had proper domestic experiences first. But that is not the point. It is not about gender roles, it is about maturity. End quote. I think they are both correct. I went to look up the definition of genius in the 19th century, and this is what I found out. In Victorian times, genius was understood as an exceptional, innate, and often divine-like intellectual or creative power that set individuals apart from the rest of humanity. It was a combination of romantic inspiration and emerging rigorous intellectual standards. And because this idea was also shaped by Romanticism, there was a sense that something spiritual lived within the artistic creation process. It has puzzled people why Amy doesn't want to reach as high as an artist, for example, the way May Alcott did. I think it has more to do with marrying Laurie, not in a bad way. Amy can live in comfort, but then again she doesn't give up creating art. She continues. It's just that the financial pressure is lifted. And I can say from my own experience, funding an art career is not an easy thing, especially if you don't come from a wealthy family, and most of us don't. I've done lots of different things to fund my schooling and all, but I never saw Amy as someone who gave up. She does continue to create art for her own enjoyment, not for others. A big part what makes Little Woman so great is the way it describes artistic work, whether through Jo or Amy, and this is one of the book's biggest themes. We see the girls going through different phases in their creative process. Jo writes trashy novels, tries different styles, and eventually finds a voice that suits her. Amy tries all kinds of things and finds a medium that works for her. I can say that before I went to university, I was a good painter, good illustrator. Then 4 years later, when I graduated, I felt like I was no longer just a good painter. I was a very good painter. And this isn't me bragging, but I remember having conversations with one of my art teachers about how the whole point, studying illustration in the university is to find your own style and then become the master of it. And when it comes to art is subjective. Everyone likes different things, which is why we shouldn't really compare ourselves to other artists. That is one of the main things I love about Little Woman, and it's something I've always seen reflected in my own life. That was season 7 wrapped. It has been a fun one. Jimena and I finish our chat with the chapter Consequences, and we say farewell to Amy when she travels to the old world. Do Americans still use that expression? If you are listening to this on podcast platforms, I will probably add a couple extra podcast episodes for you to enjoy. You will get the same stuff in video essays. As always, if you are a fan of the Little Woman podcast, you can join my free newsletter at littlewomanchannel.substack.com and get notified on new updates and when new episodes appear. This is Little Woman Podcast. Amy sets off to Europe. Enjoy!
But yeah, people don't get mad at Amy for this. It's the system.
Yeah, it is, and it today hurts. Later on, I think in the chapter where they come back from Europe, she talks about how hard it is for girls.
Yes, she does.
And she knows that it's really hard for girls, and it's hard for them to be ambitious and to be more than what society is asking them to do, and that you have to also be, not only do you have to comply to certain standards, you have to be, how can I say, to tolerate or to just conform yourself in the place where you're born. It was a tough life. Like then for this girl. Oh mother, she's too young. It's my turn first. I've wanted it so long. It would do me so much good and be so altogether splendid. I must go. I'm afraid it's impossible, Joe. Aunt says Amy, decidedly, and it is not for us to dictate when she offers such a favor. It's always so. Amy has all the fun and I have all the work. It isn't fair. Oh, it isn't fair, cried Joe passionately. I'm afraid it's partly your own fault, dear. When Aunt spoke to me the other day, she regretted your blunt manners and too pretended the spirit. And here she writes, as it quoted something you had said. I planned at first to ask Joe, but as favors burden her, and she hates French, I think I won't venture to invite her. Amy is more docile, will make a good companion for Flo, and receive gracefully any help the trip may give her. Oh, my tongue, my abominable tongue. Why can I learn to keep it quiet? Groaned Joe, remembering words which had made her undoing. When she had heard the explanation of the port's phrases, Mrs. March said sorrowfully, I wish you could have gone, but there is no hope of it this time, so try to bear it cheerfully and don't sadden Amy's pleasure by reproaches of regrets. I'll try, said Joe, reaching hard as she knelt down to pick up the basket she had joyfully upset. I'll take a leaf out of her book and try not only to seem glad, but to be so, and not rush her one minute of happiness. But it won't be easy, for it is a dreadful disappointment. And for Joe, the youth, the little fat pincushion she held with several very bitter tears. Joe, dear, I'm very selfish, but I couldn't spare you, and I'm glad you are not going quite yet, whispered Beth, embracing her, basket and all, with such a clinging touch and loving face that Joe felt comforted in spite of the sharp regret that made her want to box her own ears, and humbly begged Aunt Carol to burden her with this favor, and see how gratefully she would bear it. By the time Amy came in, Joe was able to take her part in the family jubilation, not quite as heartily as usual, perhaps, but without repining at Amy's good fortune. The young lady herself received the news as tidings of great joy, went about in a solemn sort of rapture, and began to source her colors and pat her pencil that evening, leaving such trifles as clothes, money, and passports to those less absorbing visions of art than herself. It isn't a mere pleasure trip to me, girls, she said impressively, as she scrubbed her best palette. It will decide my career, for if I have any genius, I shall find it out in Rome, and will do something to prove it. Suppose you haven't, said Joe, suing, with red eyes at the new colors which were to be handed over to Amy. Then I shall come home and teach drawing for my living, replied the aspirant for pain, with philosophic composure. But she made a wry face at the prospect and scratched away at her palette as if bent on vigorous measures before she gave up her hope. No, you won't. You hate hard work, and you'll marry some rich man and come home to sit in the lap of luxury all your days, said Joe. Your predictions sometimes come to pass, but I don't believe that one will. I'm sure I wish it would, for if I can be an artist myself, I should like to be able to help those who are, said Amy, smiling, as if the part of Lady Bountiful would suit her better than that of a poor drone teacher. Said Joe with a sigh. If you wish it, you have it, for your wishes are always granted, mine never. Would you like to go? Asked Amy thoughtfully, patting her nose with her knife. Rather. Well, in a year or two I'll send for you and we'll dig in the port of our relics and carry out all the plans we've made so many times. Thank you. I remind you of your promise when that joyful day comes, if it ever does, returned Joe, accepting the vague but magnificent offer as gratefully as she could. There was not much time for preparation, and the house was in ferment till Amy was up. Joe buried very well till the last flutter of blue ribbon vanished when she retired her refuge and garrished and cried till she couldn't cry any more. Amy let it quiet to pour it up, stoutly till the steamer sailed. We can pause there.
Yeah, we can pause there. Oh, that was a lot. So in the chapter calls, when Aunt Carol and Aunt March decide who they are going to take Europe with them, they don't tell Amy and Joe about this, but they are planning to take Joe. But then Joe blurts out that she does not like the French language.
Yeah.
This is not in any Little Woman adaptation between 1933 and 2019. Just saying.
I think there's a bit of a moment in the 2017 series.
That's the only one. But it doesn't. That doesn't include the French part.
No, and I think it's framed in this sort of, oh, Joe is being punished because she's such a free spirit. She's so independent. She's so it's framed as it's a punishment for being, I don't know, we're supposed to feel bad for her, and we do feel bad for her. Yeah. We're supposed to be bad, something horrible has done to her, and Amy, because she's she fits so well with the traditional expectations, and because she conforms with what society is asking for her, that's why Joe lost the trip and Amy got it, and it's kind of in a way to put the girls against each other. And the truth is that Joe was pretty mean in that chapter, in the chapter of calls. Not only did she say that she doesn't like French, she also she talks about the art fair, it's she didn't appreciate it, and Carl this, it's kind of like she insulted their way of living in a way, and also I think people forget that Amy is going as her cousin's companion. They would go out together. She would act sometimes as the chaperone if she goes out with a gentleman, or they would be constantly together. He would have to go to the balls and to all of the places where Flo has to go. So you cannot take a girl who is gonna cause trouble. And unfortunately, Joe would have hated actually to be a companion.
I have a feeling that's the case.
Yeah, I always thought that she would have hated to be Flo's companion and to be, drag around all of these society events where she doesn't feel comfortable. She hates them. She criticizes the people in there. So, I think people assume, oh, she's gonna go and be free in London and in Paris. No, she wouldn't. She would have been, a society lady just in Europe. It would have been hard for her to enjoy that trip. But I mean, still I do feel bad for her. She going to Europe an incredible opportunity. And at that time, knowing that you don't have the means to go on your own, it must be heartbreaking to lose that opportunity.
I found that quote from Coles. "How are you about languages?" asked Miss Carroll of Joe. "Don't know a word. I'm very stupid about studying anything. Can't bear French. It's such a slippery, silly sort of language," was the brusque reply. They are planning to go to Paris and southern France for a long period of time. So how you can take someone who despises the French language?
Yeah, and also like, they're gonna meet people there. And if this is how Joe behaves in front of them, it's just gonna embarrass more the family. And they are doing something, a trip to Europe. It's not just like a few dollars. No, it's a really expensive thing. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna invest in someone. You're gonna invest in the girl who actually appreciates this opportunity. I'm sorry for her that she lost it, but I mean, what I love about this chapter is that Marmee is such a good mother in consoling her and telling her like, "I'm sorry that you lost that," but she helps her daughter accountable, and she's not happy that she said all of that to Aunt Carol. Yeah, I mean, Marmee in the book, she's such a good mother. In the adaptations, sometimes she plays favorites, and I don't like that. I think in the 2019 film, especially, she played favorite a lot. On Amy's face, she was, instead of being happy for Amy, she was sad because Joe lost the trip, which goes completely opposite to what the book says, that Marmee asks Joe to be happy for Amy and does sour her excitement. But that's one of the things that I hate the most about the adaptation. That Marmee is not a fair mother in that movie.
Yeah. In the book, Marmee is she's a very good mother in that sense that she supports you, but also when you do something wrong, she tells that you did something wrong, but she also supports you to overcome that.
She's very happy for Amy. I don't know how she could like leave her 20-year-old youngest girl go so far away in that time where you need to wait weeks to get news from the other side of the Atlantic. So yeah, it must have been really hard for them.
I guess it's one of those, she realizes it's once in a time opportunity in life for her to go to Europe because of the ads. You couldn't afford to go otherwise. I read some people saying why Amy can't come home to Betsy's funeral, but it's because in the 19th century, when you traveled from America to Europe, well, you didn't just go back for a few weeks to America and then return to Europe because it was so expensive. She has to mourn in France, and Laurie has to come and comfort her. That was the reality as well. You wouldn't just go and go back. So even when we think about Fritz, what he sells all his books and gets money to one ticket to travel to New York, he cannot go back to Germany. Well, Germany was in war; it's a different thing. But it was expensive even for Aunt Carol to send Amy to France.
That's why they picked so carefully which barrel is going, because they couldn't have just sent her back, and also like traveling back and forth. No, it's not. It's the time and the cost for Amy. The reason, or like the practical reason why they supposedly elope, Amy and Laurie, is that Amy couldn't travel without chaperone.
Yes.
And so if she married, then she would just travel with her husband, and that's fine. Yeah, she couldn't just travel without chaperone. Her mobility was restricted. For that, it's not as easy to just go to Europe. It's not even easy today.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's a 12-hour trip on plane today. And that is tiring. Imagine going to in a boat. Imagine if you are one of those people who has seasickness, to be there for quite a. I think as a sign, they have reduced the time to cross the Atlantic in like, I think it was like 10 days or so.
Well, they moved to steamboats from the sailing boats. Steamboats were faster.
I don't know. Sailboat, I think it was more than a month. But yeah, I mean, it's the 1868, 69. Yeah, it took quite a while to go there. You needed chaperones. If you were an unmarried woman, it wasn't easy. I think also Marmee knows that Amy wants to be an artist, and she knows that the family and even the town can give her the training and the experience that she needs. She's happy that her daughter is gonna have that experience of going to Italy and going to London and France and all of these places where she can see the art that she admires.
Can't blame her.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. I've been there for just like 2 cities, and it's like, oh my god! Like I can see why she was so overwhelmed with what she saw.
Yeah. And there's this moment when Amy promises Joe that, well, someday we'll go to Forum to dig relics. Was it that something that Louisa May Alcott and May Alcott did together? They traveled to Italy at some point.
I forgot. I think it's in May's biography, or I don't know where I read it. I'm gonna look for it. But it was like their room had like they could see the theater, and so they would listen to it from their window, and that was they painted a very nice picture for me or about the sisters, because I think a little bit of, I think people translate their views of Joe and Amy and the relationship to Louisa and May, and when you see, they definitely are moments where they clearly were at odds, because you have these two very ambitious women together, but they also supported each other so much. They spent so much time together. It's sad that so many people think they were always fighting, or they were always resenting each other or being jealous of each other.
And that's true. That's one of the problems that I have when I read Louisa May Alcott biographies, because a lot of biographers, they sort of pit them against one another. I think there are maybe one or two biographies I have read when it's a lot more nuanced the way the writer writes about their relationship. It kind of reminds me of the Road to Avonlea TV series, because there's two sisters, Abigail and Janet. They're very different, and there's a scene when they get lost in a snowstorm and they're arguing, and the other one says, "Why can't we be friends? Why cannot we get along with one another?" And the other one says, "It's because we are sisters. We are not friends. We are sisters."
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like May and Louisa, yeah, if Louisa were being so like I don't know, have something against May, she wouldn't have paid. I think she paid like 2 or 3 trips for May to go to Europe.
Yes, May named her daughter after Louisa.
Exactly. Yeah, she not only that, she gave her daughter to Louisa to raise.
Yes.
Because she knew she was gonna die. It's not so black and white that people like to see it. It's also definitely not this idea that Amy was always second place to Joe, as a certain movie wants us to believe. It's a much more nuanced relationship, and here, I think, reading this part of this chapter, a lot of the criticism, I remember reading and say, oh, a lot of the criticism that Amy gets for getting the Europe trip actually are very similar to Joe's reaction to it. But the adventure that Joe is acting out of bitterness, like the instant bitterness that comes from being disappointed and from a little bit of being like, yes, it's my fault, but it's still unfair, and it's not the most mature thing to do. But I understand why Joe would be mad, but readers are supposed to understand that Amy did nothing wrong, that Joe made a mistake.
And it's not like Aunt Carol wants to disappoint Joe. They are distant relatives, but you have to do what's best for, the party that's going on to this trip.
Yeah, for her own daughter. We don't have a lot of scenes between Florence and Amy. You are a mother, and you just saw this girl did something admirable in the art fair. She behaved with maturity. She was kind. She put the example to the rest of the girls. You're gonna want that kind of influence to be next to your daughter, especially when you are going to Europe. It doesn't say that she's going to search for suitors, but I mean, there is a possibility. They're 20-year-old women. I think that they're 18 or so. When you contrast that with someone who speaks without thinking, 50 impulsive, she can behave, but sometimes she doesn't want to, so she doesn't. Again, I mean, I'm sorry for Joe. She tried. At least she tried to be happy for Amy. It's neither she says that she's taking her example and be happy even though she isn't.
I mean, I think that's a very nice thing for Joe to do. I think it's some of the later chapters. Joe says that it was a blessing in disguise that she wasn't chosen to go to this trip, because then she would not have met Fritz and all that. It's one of the later chapters. But she was meant to go to New York.
Yeah, that, I think this is one of those moments where things do happen for a reason. And maybe Joe needed to learn to be better behaved, but also, in the end, it worked out well. Both girls got what they wanted. Yeah, I should say she did miserable in Europe with the girls. She would have struggled a lot.
People were very surprised because I once posted that. How this trip that Amy makes to Europe, it's actually based on a trip that Louisa May Alcott made when she worked as a companion to a lady. But then again, she hated being companion, as we can read from her diaries. But she did like to travel. But Amy is fine being a companion. If Joe would have gone and be a companion, she would have disliked it as much as Louisa did.
And maybe for Amy it's not work at all because she liked that society, but for Joe it would have definitely worked and she would have hated everything of it. Yeah, and also she would have hated to not be with Beth. Not that Amy was happy, but it would have been really hard.
Amy likewise bore up stoutly. Still the steamer sailed. Then, just as the gangway was about to be withdrawn, it suddenly came over her that the whole ocean was soon to roll between her and those who loved her best. And she clung to Laurie, the last lingerer, saying with a sob, "Oh, take care of them for me, and if anything should happen—" "I will, dear, I will. And if anything happens, I'll come and comfort you," whispered Laurie, little dreaming how soon he would be called upon to keep his word. So Amy sailed away to find the old world, which is always new and beautiful to young eyes, while her father and friend watched her from the shore, fervently hoping that none but gentle fortunes would befall the happy-hearted girl who waved her hand to them, till they could see nothing but the summer sunshine dazzling on the sea. That's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that's a moment that I wish it was more well known because it talks about how close Amy and Laurie are.
Yeah.
That she made a trip to say goodbye to her at the port. She helps him and asks him to take care of them. It's not only foreshadowing what's gonna happen in a few chapters later, but you don't talk like that. Just the best friend of your sister. That's your friend. That's someone who cares about you, that you trust. You trust them. So I think it's a beautiful moment for them. It says a lot about the relationship. It's really nice. Yeah. That he went with Mr. March to say goodbye to her. It's very nice.
It reminds me of their communication when Amy is at the march. Like Amy's will chapter. They do have this relationship outside Joe. And
That's true.
I think it's a even bit more healthier than the relationship that Laurie has with Joe at times.
Yeah, I think it's a relationship of trust. I think they reach an understanding in when Beth was sick and Laurie went to see Amy. I think they reach an understanding that they would be there for the other, especially in this moment because these parallels, yeah, like you said, these parallels, that chapter in in the first book, and sadly, it does come to pass that Laurie has to go see her, just like he went to see her every day on March's house. I think I posted recently, like, oh, it's kind of like Laurie is always there to help Amy, kind of like her knight in shiny armor. Like she's always there whenever she needs him, whenever she has difficulties, even later on when he goes to see her in Europe and she's not asking him for help, but he still does it. He still makes her realize that what she's doing with Pressbong is wrong. And so he's always there for her. And in a way, she's also helped him to be a better person. I think it's said or it's implied that when Laurie is with Amy, he behaves better.
But I don't think Joe is behaved very well with Laurie either. I don't think they had a very good influence on one another.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, she tells him to run away, and it's like that's not what you want to tell him, especially when you know that his father ran away and left Mr. Lawrence alone. Not that Mr. Lawrence didn't have any responsibility on it, but it's still a really careless thing to say. Like Mr. Lawrence is not. It's not as young as he was when his son left. He needs Laurie to be there. So yeah, it's not really nice to tell him to run away.
Yeah.
I think Meg is the one who tells him not to do that.
Jo is in an interesting character in that way. She's a very maternal person towards Laurie, and at the same time, she also kind of inspires him to be very reckless and careless towards others, and do what you want yourself. And then she's at the same time very maternal and looks after him. Like in the first chapter, she helps him when he has a cold. It's a very sort of hot and cold relationship, should I say? But then again, I've always been a canon.
It would have been quite disastrous. To start with the part that Joe didn't want it, it's nice to see that. This chapter has moments where she's like, I need the audience to get that it's not a good relationship, but then she also has moments where she writes about Amy and Laurie in a very nice way. Yeah, but I love this moment. I wish we'd seen this more in adaptations.
There are quite a few of them, like Laurie and Amy's father are the last say goodbye to her when she leaves. There are quite a few Amy and Laurie moments before the Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, I think it's in Europe, they're still friends, where it says that when they go to the ball and she adjusts his cravat, and he also helps her put on something in for the dress, and it's like, that's so nice that you're acting already like a married couple. Why do I not see this more often? Or the fact that when Meg got married, it says that Amy and Laurie opened the dance floor like they always did. Why they never danced in the movies? That's one of my main complaints. I'm like, every single historical romance has a dance scene, but I can get one between Amy and Laurie in 10 plus adaptations.
That's true.
The 2017 series tried, but they had zero budget, so they couldn't do much.
The 2070 had a moment where Amy and Joe hugged. That's one of the moments about it.
Yeah, in the 1994, and they hugged, but they had a very nice scene. They are all together. The 2019 film doesn't count because there was too much. The atmosphere in that scene where they hug, it's not good. It's not what you want from Little Women.
The 2019, I only see it at once, but I feel like the Amy and Joe relationship in that film, it's very hot and cold.
Yeah, I don't like it because I really did like this idea that Amy always felt second to Joe. Yeah. When you can see over and over and over again in the chapters especially when they are older, and that's not the case. Amy is very confident in who she is, and she's not trying to be Joe. She's just trying to be herself. And she even tells Joe, like, I don't remember the quote very well, but basically it's like, you do your thing your way, I do things my way, and that's it. And I think that's from the chapter of Cold, actually, where they are when they are fighting. Yeah, so this idea that Amy is always trying to be like Joe, it's very unfaithful to the book. It does a disservice to the character of Amy. It's very frustrating that it has those that Amy gets reduced to that in that film.
Yeah, I think my biggest frustration is just this idea that if there's some kind of competition between Amy and Joe about Laurie, when in the book they never compete about Laurie, it's Laurie first having affection towards Joe, then towards Amy, but it's never a competition between Joe and Amy about Laurie. Joe does not want Laurie romantically, she's not interested, and Amy, she only later on realizes her feelings towards Laurie. So that's one of those things that I absolutely hate in Little Woman fandom. I hate.
It's the same problem with a lot of fandom. When male character, they fell for someone or they have a crush or they have even this kind of very unhealthy infatuation, and then they get over it because they have character growth and they find love with someone who is actually a good partner to them. They always think that that person is the second choice, and it's like, no, it's not. It's just like he grew and he got over it, and that's another chapter that never gets adapted when Laurie is having this internal debate.
Yes.
What to do with his feelings because he feels an obligation to love Joe because he has this idea, this wrongful idea that he has to be faithful to that, but then he's not feeling it anymore, and he's kind of already thinking about Amy, but he goes back and forth. He's suffering at that moment. It's never adapted. It's never adapted when he finally, which I think it's a very nice scene when he goes to the church and he kind of mourns that infatuation, and then he realized that he's over it. Laurie is never a full character in these adaptations. He's always like just the love interest.
That's true. It's actually a really good character growth. A moment for him, actually go to church to realize that, that there are certain things in my life that are not going rightfully. And it's not even about Amy and Joe at that point. It's about him sort of coming to terms with himself. So that's always frustrating to me that, filmmakers ignore that. Like my ideal Little Woman adaptation would be maybe a series where it would be like one episode focusing on the internal life, one character at the time.
Yeah, that would be really great. Yeah, I don't know why someone brought up the idea of what would you do? You have millions and millions of dollars, because I'm tired of the bad taste of the films that unfortunately they are more influential to popular culture than the book itself. And so yeah, I would do that. I would spend my money wisely and do an adaptation. It's hard. It's hard. And one thing about the 2019 film is that Gerwig said during the press tour, her pitch to Sony was, I want to make a movie about art and money. And, we can discuss if the women is actually about art and money only, but I don't think it's that bad of a take to propose something a little bit different from the other adaptations. The problem is that chapters like this one, who are actually about art and money, are nowhere to be seen in that film.
Excellent point.
So it's like, where is this chapter where Amy has to deal with classism, and also she talked about art? Where is the chapter where Joe makes her first novel, where the editors are trying to tell her to take out all the morals and all the philosophy of her story, and the family is like getting her feedback? And Amy says something really interesting there, where she's like, well, just do it. Like, do what the editors ask you to, and then just polish. Put your name out there, and then little by little, you will start getting a career, getting an A, and then one day you won't need the editors to tell you what to do. You just want to write as many philosophical characters as you want. And that's actually, I think that's a really good advice at that moment. There's also never the chapter where Amy and Laurie make the resolution to help children in disadvantage with their artistic ambitions. So yeah, it's kind of like, I think the idea of making a Little Women adaptation center around art and money could have been a great idea if only it would have actually talked about art and money. It shows the same things that every adaptation does and really contribute little to what could be said in this story. So if this particular chapter would have been perfect for that movie, but it wasn't. It wasn't there. It wasn't there at all.
I agree.
So, yeah.
It's interesting about Little Woman and money because I once read that Louisa May Alcott, she would be like, it would be the same type of money that J.K. Rowling is making with Harry Potter if she lived today. Back in the 19th century, she made as much money or even more what J.K. Rowling is making. Of course, it came all from Little Woman, a book that she had very, I would say, difficult relationship because it was partly based on her own life. But then the book that she liked the most, her first novel, which name I now forgot, but it's the one with Henry David Thoreau and Emerson, or the love interest in the novel. That was her favorite, and that was a flop. The book that she liked the most was not the one that made her the most money. It was Little Woman, which was more of a side project that she had. It's interesting. Yeah, the name is going to come to my mind after we have stopped discussing, of course. I will write it to the show notes. Anyway, I think it's fascinating how much money she made with Little Woman and how much Little Woman resonates with people because it was really the first girl book out there for, female readers, and it was relatable and all that. Came in the right time. It was just insane amount of money that she made with Little Woman when she was still alive in her 50s and all that. But because of her illnesses, physical illness, I'm pretty sure that Louisa May Alcott had bipolar disorder. I cannot prove that, but just based on my research, she was never really fully able to, enjoy all the wealth that she made. And then, of course, we know that she had a pretty tragic love life and all those things. Even if it's about art and money, it does not equal. I think it's actually quite difficult to make something that has artistic value and it's valuable. I think that's actually quite difficult. But yeah, maybe they are born from accidents, like Little Woman, because it was more of an accident that Nas was like, hey, you should write a book for girls, and I think she already had a trap in her head about that. But yeah, maybe it was an accident.
Yeah, and I think later on, she just had to keep writing sequels to support because John died. John, what was his name? His real name. Well, the real John Brooke died. Ben May died. That is one of the hardest, I don't know, like dates of an artist that I read. I don't know, I read so much about her that I feel so sad every time I remember that she died. But she died, and Louisa had to take care of her child, and so she wrote Joe's Voice. She had to keep on writing these stories to support her family. Yeah, so and she still left the inheritance to her nephews, and it's interesting how reading this chapter, I'm reading like that, for example, Amy wanted to help to be a teacher or then help like a patron, and she does end up doing that. This foreshadowing of Amy's and Laurie's relationship is it's really nice.
Well, that was a good talk. I had forgotten some of those things, so interesting to look back on it.
Yeah. Like, I also hadn't read it in a while, hadn't thought about it in a while, and then I was like, oh wow, this chapter is so rich. Like it's not long. It's just a few pages, and you can talk about it Well, we talked about it for like 2 hours and a half, I think.
Maybe we should do Amy's Will next time, because I haven't gone through that yet. I think it's my favorite Amy chapter.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
All right, when I get my voice back. All right, thank you, Jimena. Have a very nice day, I guess. It's night here, so.
Yeah, for you it's already night. No, it's noon.
Oh, it's just a noon there. Oh, it's 9 p.m. here.
Yeah.
All right. It was nice talking to you again. It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you again. Yeah.
That was the chat between Jimena and me. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time. Take care, make good choices. Bye.